for like such kind of discussions. So my intention is try to finish the syllabus first. Then I will like discuss the case study and the general queries, some requirement, such kind of things.
Yesterday I sent you all the documents, whatever he has sent.
Okay. However, I haven't checked, but definitely before next class, I will check and then I will uh, come with the discussion. So make sure that if I have not any information, then I will collect it by that time. So today I'm going to start with the mass change and mass update. So last time I was talking about the file upload, file download, these two technique. Along with this file upload and file download, we have something called mass change or mass update. That is nothing but to change multiple material at the same time. Like what I was talking about for file download and file upload. Like let's say I have 10 different material. Respect to 10 different material, I want to change one specific manufacturer part number. Okay, and let's say the manufacturer part number will be same, changes will be done for the 10 materials. So first I will download the 10 materials, do the changes and try to upload it. So it will be an easy task for me rather than go to each and every material separately and made the changes. Okay. Similarly, we have something called mass change. So even though mass change is the easier process than just a file upload and file download. So mass change means by name itself it is pretty clear, where we change the multiple material data at one time. So click on mass change and let's say I want to first identify, I don't know what is the material. Let's say my requirement is, for an example, that when the base unit of measure is EA, okay, base unit of measure is EA, try to identify how many materials are which is having the base unit of measure EA. So first I will identify this number. See, so total this number of material, this is the total number of material which is having the base unit of measure which is EA. Fine. So based on this number, let's say there are more than one material. Let's say this 3 material, more than, and one more thing here. This data is including the staging and active area. So you can see there are some material which is starts with and sign, that is nothing but the temporary material, and there are some material which is already the active data. So whether it is a active data or it is inactive data, so I can select the number of material and go for the changes. So let's say this number of material I want to make the changes, and the changes is nothing but, let's say, the material group. So the material group I want to change for those 3 material. So I will select and I will identify. I will change the material group. Now the question which you have to face, that is the moment you will explain this feature, because this is one of the feature in MDG where you can do the mass material change at one point of time. So then immediately the question will come from customer, that is why I need that, because customer will try to understand at what position, at what situation I can use this mass change. For an example, let's say that based on one batch data, let's say for an example, like there is one motor vehicle company, and respect to one specific batch, the company identified that they have given some they have some wrong data which has been manufactured for a specific batch. Okay, so what will happen? First, they will identify how many uh, how many materials or how many vehicle I have based on the same batch number. So accordingly, so here similarly I have identified the material based on the base unit of measure. That means if my base unit of measure is EA, then I can identify there are how many number of material we have, including the staging and the active data. Then after identifying the number of data, like number of vehicle for an example, what I will do the changes that what exactly the object I need to change for those certain material. So based on that, I will do the changes. So for those materials, the changes will be made. So this is the material group. Let's say I'm providing for these three material which I selected. Go to next. Okay. So what is my change data? My change data is material group, and the number of material which I selected, only for those material it will be changes and execute changes. Okay. So why I'm repeating this question, like again I'm repeating like why we need this, because might be your customer will not understand why we need this. You have to understand your customer that we may need this particular feature if I have more than one customer data or more than one supplier data or more than one material data needs to be changed at any point of time. Then the immediate counter question your customer will ask why it is required to change. Then you can give an example. Let's say that particular material is now change the business unit, or the particular material is now change the material group. So previously, let's say ITC had some specific product, some cake. Now they became it was under the let's say tobacco, but now later point of time they realize no, it should not be under the tobacco product, it should be under the retail product, like the foods and the uh, groceries product. So in that cases we change the group, we change the certain material group. So however, it is very rare cases in real-time scenarios, but it is some point of time it is required. Because of that reason we use this mass change material. Now while I was executing the changes, it was saying that the change request number is missing. Yes, of course, in this system we cannot create the change request as I explained in last class, but normally what we need to do before we start the mass change, we need to create the change request here. So if I click on here, it is not appearing in this system. It has some issue with the IDS server. Even our basis team also checked on this, but I think it has a problem with the IDS server. Because of that reason, the create change request is not working. So before we start mass change, we have to create the change request. So what will happen when I click on mass change and when I provide the base unit of measure, I can give any of the detail. Based on that, the material number will be appeared. So as I'm using base unit of measure, base unit of measure EA. Go to next. So this is the number of material, which is including the staging and active area. Select the data. So I can select one or more than one data. as many number, I can select it and click on next. And which data I want to change, that I need to identify. Let's say I want to change material group. So here is the material group. Okay. So let's say this is the data, and then click on next. So the moment you click on next, this screen will appear. And the moment you click on execute changes, what will happen? One pop-up screen will appear. In that pop-up screen, you have to give the change request number and click on execute. So what that will, based on this change request number, the changes will be executed. This is the process. So for an example, see here. So this is one real-time system. So based on the business unit, we identify how many number of material we have. So including the staging area and active area, all the material number which is appeared based on this particular business unit. And then we continue with this. So we select the number of material, whether one or more than one number of material, and then made the changes. So we made the changes in the material group level and also base unit of measure level. So those changes we made and go to next. See, basically we made the changes in three details. One is lab office, another one is material group and base unit of measure. So these three changes we made and click on execute. So the moment you execute, you need to provide the change request number and execute. So the changes will be happen based on that material. This is nothing but the mass change. And why we need the mass change? To change the multiple material data at one time, instead of going to each and every material and change the data. And we will have a change request number. Respect to that change request number, the changes will happen. So make sure that we will have the entire process will be transparent, that respect to this change request number, these are all changes has been made. Okay. This is nothing but the mass change. Okay, along with the mass change, let me tell you that I also have given the detail about, in last class it was asking that whether I have a detail for SOA configuration. So I have given the SOA configuration detail for finance, for material, for customer, and for supplier. Please go through it. There are very straightforward steps are there. Go through those transactions, those steps. You will come to know what is the configuration is involved for SOA architecture.
Uh,
Okay.
Aditya,
Yeah. Please
Aditya,
tell me.
so suppose for one object I will be using the IDOC and other object I will be using the SO. Is it okay?
You can use not one object, like let's say SOA architecture you can use for finance and IDOC you can use for material. That is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And regarding this mass change, I have one that there was one field called initialize. What is the use of that? Initialize.
Which one? Tell me.
Just go back to the previous step. Yeah, this initialize.
Initialize. Where is that initialize?
Yeah, this column. The replace with, after that the
Okay,
initialize. No?
initialize. Okay. So if I want to make it as a any initial data for respect to this particular value, that I can use for initialize. But honestly speaking, I don't use this. Means initialize means if you want to make any uh, initial, whether it is the initial data for this, like any if there is, so we make the statement if it is initial, this field value is initial, That means if there is no value for this field, okay, so that is nothing but initialization. So if I
Okay.
select this, that means respect to this field I don't have any certain value, okay. But
Okay.
here this is my object. This is not my objective. My objective, majority cases, your objective will be to replace some value which you have respect to the list of material, to change the value with some other value. That will be
Okay.
the main objective, to replace the value for multiple materials by
Okay.
using the mass change.
Okay. So suppose I have this length as, suppose I want to make a value 0 or blank. In that case, what to do? Suppose there are one
Initialize.
field.
Let's say you
Okay.
want
So
to make initialize also you can make, or if you ask me, let's say previously my material group was something, now I want to change the value. Let's say for an example, mm, let me select one data. Let's say this data I have. Respect to this material, if I execute, let's say the because base unit of measure, industry sector, these are all mandatory data. You cannot avoid those data. Let's say for an example, material group, you want to make it as a null, or you don't want to give any certain value, or you want to give the value as 0. However, material group, you can do one thing, you can select one F4 button, we have the initial value. This is the one. So keep it blank, the material group. So what will happen? This value will override, or you can click on this initialization. So it will be, the data will be initialized. But you cannot do it for base unit of measure, because base unit of measure, industry sector, these are all the mandatory field for material creation. You can do only for those field which is not a mandatory field for the material creation, like manufacture number, manufacture part number. I can make the null value. I can keep the null value. That's not a problem, because this is not a mandatory field for me. Okay.
okay. So Aditya, in these changeable attributes, okay. So
Mhm.
all the fields will come, or only the standard fields, the changeable attributes.
Changeable attribute, all the fields, including the standard. Manufacture number, manufacture part number is not a standard field. It is a custom field which we have added here.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we have
So
to do anything in the data model, or how it will come automatically?
automatically, the moment you add in the data model, activate the data model, automatically those attributes will be available here. Okay.
Okay.
You need not to do any additional activities for that.
Okay, Aditya.
Now the next thing which I'm talking about, that is data import framework, that is using the DIF. So basically DRF we have used to replicate the data. DIF we will use to import the data. Like we have in MDM import manager. What we do? We have, let's say, certain XML file. Those XML file we need to load through the import manager in MDM. Then whatever the data we have in XML, those data will be loaded to the MDM system. Same way in MDG, we can perform the data import by using the DIF approach. DIF approach is a specifically comes with MDG package. Otherwise, you won't get this DIF. So basically, I can say, so if someone will ask what is DIF, so I can say by using this DIF, I can load the initial data or the mass data. I can perform the mass load or initial load. You probably heard about the terminology, that is the initial data load. Initial data load. Whether it is the initial data load or mass data load. I can do this by using the DIF approach, or I can do LSMW. So that means in import data, how many approaches I have? One is file upload. That is one approach. By using the simple file upload, I can update the data. Okay. Another one is LSMW. By using legacy system migration workbench, I can simply load the data. Another way is I can directly replicate the data replication from source. That is also one possibility, that from source to MDG I can replicate the data by using IDOC or XML. Okay. And another one is DIF. In MDG we have this DIF framework. In normal ECC, like in SAP ABAP system, you won't get this DIF. In such cases, we have to either go for LSMW or replicate from source or file upload. But here we have additional activity, that is DIF. So any kind of a initial data load or mass data load for customer, supplier, finance, material, we can use this DIF. Now we have to talk about what is the prerequisite for data import. There are some prerequisites are there. Prerequisite for DIF. Point number 1. That is export the master data information from source system to XML file format. So we can export the master data information from the source system into XML file format, and this XML file will be available on application server. That is point number 1. I will explain that. First, let me write down the prerequisite points. Second number, copy the XML file from application server of source system to application server of target system. That is point number 2. And point number 3 is import master data to the target system through DIF. Now, so this is the 3 activities. On these 3 activities, the entire DIF stand. First of all, ultimately what we are going to load? We are going to load the XML file. Like what we can do in data import for MDM, the same thing we are going to do here by using the XML file upload. So this XML file can have one material or can have multiple material data, right? Now this XML file, who will provide this XML file? Let's say my customer will provide this XML file, or my BODS team will provide this XML file, or let's say the ABAP team will provide this XML file, or the PI team will provide this XML file, or the information steward or the data steward team will provide this XML file. So they will provide the XML file. So what I will do first, this XML file will have what? This XML file will have the customer information, the vendor information, the material information, ultimately those information which I want to load it in MDG. And this XML file will be in application server. Application server means what? So we have basically the application server and presentation server. Presentation server is nothing but the desktop. Application server means we have a certain the path. In those application path we can place the file, right? That is nothing but the application server. So first we need to place that XML file into the application server, and from application server of source system we need to copy it to the application server of target system. Target system, and finally import the master data. Okay, we'll see this 3 steps. Only these 3 steps we need to follow. Now we'll see how to do that. So the steps. Step number 1. So first I need to create one physical directories, not one, there can be multiple. First I can create the physical directories on the application server and map them to logical directories using the transaction file. That is the step 1. So first what we will do, we will go to the transaction file, FILE. This is the transaction where we can place our specific data. Okay. We can go to the transaction FILE file. Okay, it is a cross-client transaction. Okay. So this is the area which is for logical file path definition, where we will basically create the logical file path and will assign our file respect to that. Okay. Before we start on this activity, before we create any logical file path, the very first activity which we need to do, that is we have to go to MDG-IMG. The first step. This is the first step. The first step is not the file 1. However, logically it is the first step. But basically you have to first go to MDG-IMG. And you need to go to, for file upload, we have to go to data transfer. And under data transfer, we have something called define file source and archive directories for file transfer. This is the one. So this is the first activity which we need to do. Okay, now, so first we will create the logical file path here. Okay, 1 second. Before that, define the object type for data transfer. However, there is this, let's say for material, object type for material is nothing but 194. So if I go to this define object type for the data transfer, it is nothing but, it will talk about that which object type we have for the data transfer. So this is the object type and this is the detail for material. So 194 is for material. Similarly, CUST for customer, which is BO type 159. Similarly for supplier, 266 for supplier. Fine. What I will do, let me try with, I will create my own BO type here. Let's say Y194 material processing, and the BO type is 194. Okay, save it. Select it. Go to the detail information for object type. So here, message data type, some namespace information, nothing is required. No information is required. Just create the object type. That means this is the object type which will help me to move the data from one to another destination. Okay. So for material, we have, this is the BO type for customer, for vendor, for uh, company, for cost center, profit center, etc. Now, once I define the object type, the next step will be go to the, let's write the step 1 is create object type. Create object type for respective domain. Respective domain. That is point number 1. Now, next point is define the file and archive, file source and archive directories. Okay. Before we go to this, let's go here. Fine. Here we have to create the logical file path for my data load. Let me create one logical file path. Y underscore underscore file upload. So this is my logical file path, and the description is, let's say, file upload. File upload for data input. Okay, save it. Does not exist any file path. So it says the logical file path you are trying to create, this is not exist here. Okay, so what I need to do, that means this logical file path, first I need to create somewhere else. Where I have to create this particular logical file path? For that, I have to go to the transaction called file. This is the one where we create the physical directories on the application server and map to the logical directories. So here first I need to create the logical file path. Upload material upload. That means the second step is by using this transaction FILE, create the logical file path, select the logical file path, and assignment of physical path to logical paths. Go with this. Okay. So here, the respect to the logical file path, I have to provide some syntax group. What is this syntax group? How I will come to know that what is this syntax group I have to use? For that, what I need to do, let's create one syntax group. What is the syntax group should be? So we can have the syntax group called Windows compatible, or Unix compatible, or so we have something called DOS compatible syntax, some Unix compatible syntax, some Windows compatible syntax, etc. So let's say I'm selecting Windows ID. My logical path is Windows compatible syntax. Okay. Now there are one major thing which is looking for. So here what I'm trying to do by using this file transaction, I'm not only creating the logical path, I'm linking the logical path with the physical path. This is the physical path. So create physical directories on the application server and map them to logical directories. So basically I'm creating the logical path and connecting with the physical path. Now how I will get this physical path? For this, I have to go to the transaction. So the step number 3 immediately will be the transaction CG3Z. This is the transaction CG3Z. This is the transaction which is required to upload the file from the local system to application server. That means what? This CG3Z is the transaction. If I go to this transaction, CG3Z. Okay. So this is the transaction which you will see. You can have a long list of physical server details. Those are nothing but the application server. So basically, so now what will happen? Let's say I have one XML file. Okay, so my customer will give the XML file over the mail to me. So this XML file will have the material details. This XML file I have to load it in MDG. So the first line is source file on front end. Front end means the file which I have in my local desktop. What I will do, I will select it from my local desktop. So this is my local desktop. So from my local desktop, I can select that file. Okay. Once I select this file, so this file should be in which format? This file should be in .dat format. .dat format. This file should be. Okay. Now this is my source, and this is my nothing but the local system, the local presentation server from where I'm trying to load the data. And one more thing, apart from the .dat file, this file also compatible with .xml. So basically my customer will give me the XML data. Hardly I can expect that my customer will give .dat file. Basically they will give the XML data. So it is also compatible to load the XML file. So what will happen? First I will select the file which is a XML file from my local desktop, source file on front end, and the target system. Which is this target system? This target system is nothing but is the application server details. So we have some network drive, right? We have some network drive, some execution path for some certain process. So this is the path details where we store the data. So this application path name, how I will come to know that which application path name I have to use here? Okay. For that, we need to go to another transaction that is called AL11. So in AL11, AL11 is the transaction for basically it will have respect to the directories the path detail. So let's say this is one path. dir underscore trans. This is for file transfer, or yeah, this is for file transfer, let's say. Okay, and this is the path. If I go to this particular path, this is the file name which is available here. Let me try to go to this path. I will copy this text, go to start button. So that means you should have the access for this path. Then only you can go to this path and put your file there. Click on run. And here you have to give the path detail. See, this path has user ID and password protected. Definitely. Why? Why this path has user ID and password protected? Because this path has the major information. This path has all the XML file which I'm going to load it. So it's a sensible area. And this is the area which majority cases my customer will have access, not the developer. Okay, but you will get the access for this particular activity. So what you will do, basically respect to this file transfer, this is the path. If I double click on this, under this path we have these are all files. Temp is one folder, storage is one folder, SAP names is another folder, log is one folder. These are all folders. And if I continue with it, sorry, and if I open those folders, let's say etc. If I open this folder, I can see under this etc, this is the file dot. This is nothing but one file. So under this etc folder, we have two files. Similarly, double click, let's say log. Under log, let's see how many files we have. 4 files we have, where two folder name and two file. Again, if I go to this folder, under this we have this detail. So that means basically these files are nothing but the XML files. Basically this will be the XML file, and this is the path which I can use. This is the application path, application directory where I can place my file. So what I will do, this is the path which I have to use in CG3Z transaction. So how you will come to know which path you have to use? That your customer will tell that which path you have to go to place your file. So this is your customer will provide this information, because you don't know whether you have to use this one or this one or this one. Any path will be applicable for your customer. So this one your customer will provide this path details. Okay. So once you know the path details, you will go to this CG3Z transaction. That means the previous transaction which I was talking about. And in this transaction, so the first one is the local, from the local desk you are selecting the file, and this one is the path name where you are going to select the file. Let's say the file name is xyz.xml. This is the file .xml. Okay, xyz.xml, and what was the target file name? Let me, I have to copy that. System response is very slow. So basically I'm copying the path. This is the path name. Copy the text, put it somewhere in the notepad. So this is the path name which I needed here. Now go to CG3Z. So this is the one. So here, put a slash. So my file name is xyz.xml. Okay. So in the source file, this is the path which is from my local desk, where I'm selecting the XML file which my customer has been given. So I select this file, and from my local desk, I'm putting this file in application server in this particular path. So under this particular path, under trans folder, this XML file will be loaded. That is the first step. If you see here in the prerequisite, what I said, export the master data information from source system XML file format, and this file will be available in application server. So the XML file which my customer has been given from my local desk, I put it in application server by using this CG3Z and AL11, these two transactions. By using AL11, I got the path name. By using CG3Z, I place the source and the target details. The transfer data format will be in binary format. So if I want to overwrite already, if there is any XYZ file, I can put it overwrite file. So that file will be overwrite and go for data load. So it will load that particular file to this particular application server. Okay. Once this file load is done, then, so once this step is done, step 3, then the next thing is we have to go to again MDG IMG, and now we will go to the option which we were trying initially, that is go to data transfer, and here define file source and archive directories for data transfer, this one. So now I will give the same logical file path name which I have given there. So this is the logical file path name. Okay, now what is the physical file path name here, which I could not talk about? The physical file path name is nothing but the same link. This is the link, the same link, slash the file name. This is the physical path name along with the logical path name. Save it. Okay. So the y underscore mm file upload. So the same path name I will create here. Let's see. Y underscore mm y underscore mm underscore file upload. So this is for material upload. Okay. So now it is allowing me to create the logical path. Otherwise, earlier it was not allowing me to create it. So what I have done, so because of that reason, first I have created it in the transaction under FILE, and then the same logical name I maintained here. So then go to the archive path for this. So now we have to define what is the object type. So the object type which we have created just before this step, that is Z194 or Y194. Yeah. Create entry. So this is Y194. This is for material master processing. Okay. So it is material processing. Set. Okay. So that means if I define this scenario here, so in step number 5, what exactly I have done? In step number 5, basically, I have added this logical path entries here along with the object type. Add logical path entry along with object type, the respective object type. So then this respective object type will help to move the data from one logical path to the another logical path, or one destination to other destination. So this is the reason for that. Now what else? The next is, so once this is done, okay, that's it. So now you have to go to NWPC. NWPC. To NWPC. And go to the file transfer. Import data master. That is nothing but the import data, whether it is a material data or customer data or finance data or vendor data. This is the import master data which we have to use for any kind of import master data. The moment we create on that, what will happen? This import master data page will open. Now, first we need to select the object type. So what is the object type we have? Yes, one important thing. By using the data import, once one important thing is, one important note here, using file upload, we can upload material basic information along with classification. But we cannot load both the data together. So what we need to do, for material basic information, we have mat mass, masses type, and for classification, we have masses type CLF mass. Okay, so what is trying to say, material basic information and classification and characteristics, everything I can load it, but one at a time, not together, not everything in one shot. I can load it one at a time. And that is true. First, I need to load the material basic information, then I can load the respective classification record. It is not like first I can load it the classification data, then basic data. No. First, the material basic information has to be loaded, and then the classification and characteristics. This is how the entire load should happen. So here, in this, I have to select the material, the object type. So here, for me, the material is the object type. And after that, if I want, I can use the classification data. If I want to load the classification data, but classification data should not be the first. First will be the material basic information. Similarly, I can have a customer data. Similarly, I can have uh, the supplier information, extraction of supplier, profit center, cost center, etc. So let's say the object type is material. Now, then give some description like file upload. Now, the governance. Do you really want the governance activity? Of course, I want the governance process. Now the respective change request type. For a file upload, also we have certain change request. What is that? The change request number is, for a material, for a file upload, the change request number is mat0p. If I go to MDG IMG, general settings, process model, change request, create change request type. So here mat0p, mat0p. This is the one, mat0p. Okay, so select it, go to the entity type. Go to entity type. So here is the material one and the business activity. So the respective business activity is mat.b for import material. Similarly, for import finance data, for import customer data, for import vendor data, we have a respective change request type. So this is the change request type. So I can create my own change request for this data import. So now go back to the screen, NWBC screen. And here I have to select the change request type. So here mat0b. So the moment I will create, let's say z mat0b or y mat0b, so that change request will appear here. Now we have also called override option. Override means, like, let's say the material detail which I'm trying to load it at this moment, where if that same material number is already present, it will be override. So this is nothing but the override. Now next is import scheduling, whether it will be import later in future or it is import now. So definitely I want to import now. Now come down. Now click on the under the data resource, just click on add button. Here it is. See, we have material object type. As I said, we have mat mass, we have classification, etc. So first I will talk about the material and classification. Key mapping and value mapping I will come little later. First I will talk about without key mapping and value mapping. So let's say first if I want to load the data, first I will go with material data. Then I will go with the classification. But make sure I should not start with classification and then material. No, because classification is absolutely depend on the material number, material type, base unit of measure. These are all basic things. So let's say the object type is material. Now coming to the source directory. What is the source directory here? Click on this F4 button. See here. This is the source directory. Y underscore mm underscore file underscore upload. Now, respect to this source directory, what I have, just look back. So, the source, respect to this source directory, I have this object type link by using this data transfer. So, the first thing, now we have to understand why I'm selecting the source directory, this one. So, go to mdg img, general settings, data transfer, file. This is the one. This is the source directory which I have selected there. So this directory is basically linked with the object type, which is nothing but Y194 for material processing. Point number one. Point number two, what this directory also has, or what this path also has, if I go to the transaction called FILE file, under this transaction we have this logical file. This is the one. And this logical file connect with the physical path. This is the one. What is this physical path? This is the application server path. How I will get this path? To get this path, I have to go to AL11. And this AL11, respect to this directory, I have this path. Now under this path, what I have? The XML file. How I will load this XML file? By using CG3Z. So every transaction is linked with each other. So ultimately, what is my objective? My objective is the logical path which I have created, that I have to use. So basically this logical path is nothing but my source directory which having this XML path, XML file. And this XML file I'm going to import. So there is a button called import. So at this moment I don't have any file. So what it says, no archive destination defined here, because two things. One is you should have the correct path name. This path name has to be correct. Your customer has to tell you that which path you have to use. And second thing is you should have the access for this path. And the third thing is the XML file. You should have the correct XML file that also will be provided by your customer or your data quality team. So based on this XML file, you need to load the data and then display monitoring. So you can monitor the data, what exactly you have loaded. This is nothing but the file import. Okay, and this is the step-by-step activity. So this is the prerequisites and these are all steps. Clear? Again I repeat, the prerequisite is first prerequisite. Now first we have a XML file. That XML file first we will load it in application server. From application server of source system, we need to send it to the application server of target system by using CG3Z transaction and then import the data. This is the prime goal for me. Now to do this activity, what exactly I am doing? First we are creating the object type for respective domain. Then second thing is by using the transaction file, what I am doing? I'm creating the logical path name. And along with the logical path name, I'm connecting with the physical directory name. How I will get the physical directory name? By using the transaction AL11. And by using the CG3Z, I can load the data that is from the local system to the application server. I can send the XML file and then add the logical file path along with the object type and then execute. So the step 5 is execute using NWBC. And one of the major important thing is make sure that we have to first go with the MATMAS message type, then the classification, because these are all different type of message type which we use to load the data in our current system. Okay, this is the DIF without value mapping and key mapping. I will come to the DIF with value mapping and key mapping part. That is a different story altogether. It is without value mapping and key mapping. That means the data which I have in XML. So what I have in XML? XML will have the technical field name, and the respective value. So this is the data which I have in XML. I assume that in my XML, whatever the technical name I have, which I am going to load it in MDG system, respect to MDG Mara table attribute, they have the same field and the same value. That's what? This is the step which I follow. But if the technical name is different, let's say this XML file has been extracted from the Oracle server or from any other third-party system. So in that system, the field name is absolutely different. So here, let's say in MDG system, the field name is Y manufacturer, where in other third-party system, where the manufacturer name is Z manufacturer, Z manufact, let's say. So totally the technical field name is different. So first we need to identify that this field in MDG is nothing but this field in third-party system. Both are same field, but they have a different technical name. And then we have to link the values. This is nothing but the called value mapping and key mapping. Value mapping and key mapping I will come little later. Okay. So far any question related to DIF data load? Any question related to DIF process without key mapping and value mapping? Okay. Now in my today agenda we have mass change, DIF and parallel processing. So the parallel processing, I will come this value mapping and key mapping little later, but before that I have to talk about the parallel processing, which is the long pending topic. Parallel processing. So the parallel processing is a part of workflow process. So now we have to understand what is called parallel processing. Parallel processing means, let's say this is my requester. The moment requester submit the data will divide it into two channel, that is verifier 1 and verifier 2. Then let's say we have approver 1 and approver 2 as well, and finally we have the finance, and then it gets activated and complete. So that means once requester submit the data, it goes to verifier and verifier 2 simultaneously to both of the verifiers. Then this verifier will approve, the respective approver will receive the change request. Then respective approver will approve, then it will go to the finance. So finance will collect both from the approver 1 and approver 2. And based on that, the finance approval, the data will be activated and complete. This is nothing but the parallel processing, which is quite different than the single processing. So here, what is different? The different part is the workflow is running parallelly the moment after the requester submit. And the second thing is both of the approver, after giving the approval, finance will get both of the approvals and the data will merge here, and based on that it will carry on. And another very important point is any one of the verifier or any one of the approver, if give rejection, so let's say approver 1, let's say verifier 1 give approve and verifier 2 give reject. If any one of the data steward or the data verifier will give the rejection, then the entire change request will consider as reject and it will back to the requester. That means it is very, very important that both of the verifier 1 and verifier 2 has to give the approval. Same for approver case. If any one of them will give the rejection, then the change request will behave as a reject. Then it will back to the requester. But if both are giving certain approval, then it will go continue. This is nothing but the parallel processing. Okay. And always remember, rejection will be the priority. If any one of the verifier or approver will give rejection, then it will go back to the requester. Okay. Now, let me in one document. So here, this is the document for parallel processing, like for email notification, for dynamic agent selection, for rule context preparation. This is one of the document. And here in this document, you see the flow. Here is the flow. Step 00 is nothing but, let's say, Max. Max is a user. So the moment Max submit the data, it divided into two ways. One is step 001 way, and another one is another step 01002 way. So based on this, it will go to Mr. Tom and Mr. Diana. Okay, so these two user it will go after it break into two part. That is, the change request will go to both of the user. Then the respective user will give the necessary approval, and based on that the change request will merge and finally proceed for further activation. This is nothing but the parallel workflow. Okay, so what I have done here, let's see. It has basically two parts. One part is I have to write the logic in rule-based workflow. Rule-based workflow, and another part is have to write the logic in service body. This is the two part. Like for email notification, like for rule context preparation, what we have, one is we have to go for rule-based workflow, another one is for service body. Same thing for parallel processing. Now let me go to the rule-based workflow. Go to MDG IMG, general settings, process modeling, workflow, rule-based workflow. Configure rule-based workflow. So first I have created one change request type for parallel processing. That is mat01_n. This is for parallel processing. I have created one change request for this. Go to the decision table. So first the single value decision table. So this is the single value decision table. Now, so these are all nothing but the step number, workflow step number. So what is the first step? That is, I have to define the workflow step number. So go there under the workflow step number and ymat01_n. So what is this? So we have respect to this particular change request type, this is the step number. Okay, these are all step number where I have a processing, final check, activation, revision processing, complete. These are all different steps we have. Now, so first what is happening from 00 processing, when the data submit, it comes to the 01, this new change request. The new change request step is 01. The status I have given a very standard status. The moment the change request reaches 01, we have this particular piece of body. So here the merge type, that is nothing but, this is the one. This is one service body. This is the filter name of the service body. Now what is happening? At the same level, the moment change request come here, at the same level, we have one specific body which will execute. I will come to the body part. Let me finish the table steps. So the moment the change request come to this 01, it break into two parts. One part is 001 and another part is 002. So in the 001, we have the two scenario, that is approve and reject. And based on that, we have some certain new change request step. So for approve, this is the step, this is reject, for this is the step. Here, this is for 001. Next is for 002. So for 002, it will go to this certain step. That means this one, 00 divided into two part, 001, 002 for Tom and Diana. So it will go to that certain stage. Now, so this is 11, this is 12. Now, next is once the data reach there, okay, that means 02 means Tom, 03 means let's say Diana. Okay, so now what is happening? If 02 approve, then it comes to some certain stage. That means when this signal, when Tom will provide the necessary approval, it will come to this stage. Similarly, when Diana will provide the approval, it will come to some certain stage. So if it is approved, it comes here. And if it is reject, it goes back to the 10 step. And from 03, it is goes for the further approval. Okay, so that means if I design this, so how it look like? It is look like this. Approver, verifier 1, verifier 2. So after that approver, then after approver finance, and then so the respect to the code, the design is look like this. Okay, so then 03 provide the necessary approval, goes for the final check. Then again final check will have two things. One is activation and send for revision. And finally, if the activation successful, then complete. If the activation not successful, then reject. This is nothing but the parallel processing, which is more or less same like single processing, but at some point of time, the process is going parallelly. Now, here we have a significance for this particular body. This is the body which we are using basically to direct the change request to the multiple locations. Not only that, so it has a basically two significance. One is to send the change request to two different locations, and also at some point of time to get the information and finally absorb those information into one level and then go for further approval. This is the two major tasks we have. Now, to see these things, we have to look into the another part of the thing, that is service body. How to write this service body? I went to SE18 and enhancement spot name is USMD underscore SSW underscore service processor. Click on display. So here, if you see, for a parallel processing, we have, this is the body definition. Go to the implementation and this is the one, let's say process. So this is the enhancement spot. This is the enhancement implementation. Respective this enhancement implementation, we have a body name and the respective class. This is the class, this is the interface, and this is the method. Under this method, we have some piece of code. Along with this piece of code, I have written some additional line code. What I have written? I said that here, this is the ls underscore step underscore action, which is nothing but one data declaration object for which is linked to basically step plus action, this particular structure where I have change request step and I have change request action. So with the help of this particular object, what I want to do, I said that if ls underscore step action is 04, 04 means what is the action? 04 action means reject. 04 action means reject. Let me show you. MDG IMG general settings, process model, change request, and define change request actions. So here 4 means reject. So what I said, that if the action equals to 4, that means if one of the approver reject, then the result will consider as reject. As I said, if any one of the approver will reject it, then it will considered as a reject. Then it will back to the requester. This is the one. So then the action will be 04 and the step number will be 02. So it will go to the step number 02. Or if none of the approver reject, sorry, it will be none of the approver, yeah, if none of the approver reject, then result will consider as complete approvals. That means if both will give the approve, then it will consider as action 03. Action 03 means approval or approve. 03 means approve. And the step number will be 02. So this is the piece of code which I have defined, because how my entire process will go if it is one approver will give approve and one approver will give reject, then how it has to be look like, how it will work in such a way. So that we have to write it down under this piece of body. And here we have the filter value. So how I can assign this particular service body? By using the filter value. So this filter value I have to assign here. Sorry, this is this one. So I have created a mini enhancement here. Why? Because you probably are aware about the system got refreshed. Before refresh, the demo which I prepared, it was triggering our enhancement. But today when I prepare this demo, I found everything has been tested, because this is the same piece of code. This is the same piece of rule-based workflow lines which I am adding here. But somehow it is not triggering the enhancement after the fresh. So this is the service name, ztry_001. Here it is. So ultimately this is reflecting the same. I just created multiple enhancement. I just wanted to debug the program and I just tried to identify it. So what I identified, that everything is fine, but somehow this enhancement is not picking up because of the system refresh. Something might be gone wrong, and because of that reason this enhancement is not triggering. Okay, but at least I can explain you the piece of code because it has been tested and executed successfully. So this is the piece of code which is there. Okay. Now, apart from this single value decision table, we also have user agent decision table. See here. So in the user agent decision table, I have like requester, verifier, approver, which I define as a specialist, data steward, like that. Okay, so specialists, data steward are nothing but an approver, verifier, etc. They are nothing more than that. So what I said, when the condition alias is 1, that means for the 001, it will, if it is successfully approved, then it will go to this level, this particular person or this particular group, because I have used the role. Role means under this role, I can have one or more than one people. So if I go to this role, so how to check the role? By using PFCG transaction. PFCG transaction. So here, this is the one. Y underscore SAP MDGM menu 04. This is the role. And this is the menu. And this is the user detail. So these are all user, which is a part of it. Okay. So that means if the first level approves successfully, it will go to those users, which is associated with this role. Similarly, for the second approver or the second verifier, if it is approved, then it will go to this specialist role. So what is this specialist role? Let's see. Like this role, we have created another role for specialist. This is the one. So this is for master data governance specialist, like verifier, approver, etc., which having the same menu and the user detail. So these are all user. So any point of time, I can add some user, I can delete some user. So let's say MDG user. Same. So any point of time, I can add some user, delete some user. That is the significance of the role. Okay. So that means the second case, once the approval given, it will go to this particular role. Like this way, respect to each and every steps. Whenever the approval will be given, the respective role, the change request will go. Same for the revision. So if it is reject, then it will go to this particular role. This is nothing but the user agent decision table. And then the non-user agent decision table. So what are those point we can have in non-user agent decision table? Like activation, complete, rollback. These are all activities are non-user agent decision activities. So let's see 9931.4. What is this activity? Without any doubt, 99 is a completion. 31. 31 is again the completion. Okay. Then the next is 4. 4 is again the completion. And yeah, 99 is nothing but the initial, the 11 and 12 after breaking the change request. It goes to this 2 level. That is 1. So these are all activities which is all back-end activities, which we need not to do anything. That system will control. But if I see user agent activities, what is this user agent 1? 1 means first step, that is I need to submit the change request, and this change request will go to the next level. That is 1. Then 10 and 30. What is 10? 10 means once the approver once from 0 to, once it is approved, then it is goes to 10. So ultimately 10 is nothing but one certain step where based on this certain step the entire change request to move, and 10 is a step, that is if from the 10th step if it is resubmit it will go for basically rollback. So this is 10th means one of the step number. It is a condition alias and it is going to this 03 step number. Okay, it is indicating one step. So when it is one specific step, so that step I can have a approval and the respective rejection. So that's what it is coming under the user agent decision table. Similarly 35(7), these are all nothing but one each and every steps. 30 is for final check approval. 5 is again final check approval. So these are all separate steps like verifier, approval. So verifier, approver, they has to come physically and click on the approve button. They has to come physically and click on the reject button. That is nothing but the approve and reject for a specific steps. So this is nothing but the parallel process. So what the problem I found, everything is fine, like the table which you are seeing, absolutely everything is fine. But when I'm trying to execute the change request, the execution is not picking the enhancement. It is not picking the enhancement. So if I put a breakpoint here, for an example, you can see it was absolutely working fine, but last day as we were ended up with a lot of things, so I thought, okay, let's next class we will have this discussion. But unfortunately the system got refreshed in the meantime. So again I create the same example today, and when I try to execute this, so let's say I put a breakpoint here and I will go to NWBC and try to execute it. So create material. Anyhow, I have the same example I will try with some other system, because I'm not really sure after refresh is there any issue with this system. Okay, so first of all, this change request has been opened, and still it did not went to any debug point. Okay, let me give some value. At least provide the minimum values and execute, because after the execution, as for my logic, it has to hit the enhancement, and from there it will break into two parts. That means it will break into two different users. So here description is test, and now if I submit the change request, see, the workflow is currently being processed. That means still it is not went to any debugger point. That means it is not picking the enhancement, where I already put a debugger in the enhancement level. So that is what. So it was working absolutely fine, but after refresh, I'm not really sure. I tried with different changes in the enhancement level, but still it is not picking. So I will try in the meantime with another system. So before next class, I will try to look into another system, and we'll see. I hope, because this code, the decision tables are absolutely fine because it has been already tested. Okay, so I will try with another system, and if possible, next class I will show you in another system as well. But still, This is the piece of code which needs to be written for body level, and this is nothing but the different decision tables respect to the parallel processing. At least just to give you the understanding what exactly needs to be take care here regarding this execution. And this is the different type of user agent decisions.
Aditya, can we wrap up now after 5 minutes?
Okay. Okay, fine. Just one. Just give me 5 minutes. I will write up. This is the single value decision table, user agent decision table. So these are all different type of users. So based on, so probably sometimes people have a question like, what is specialist? What is specialist role? What is steward role in MDG? So these are all, so intentionally I maintain this role just to give you understanding that how we use the role in real-time manner. This is how we create the role. We attach the group of people along with the role, and then we assign it. So basically steward and specialist are nothing like a verifier, approver, like it's a different steps. It's another step or another level where we do the certain approvals respect to the data. So this is all about the parallel processing. If possible, before next class, I will do the same thing in another system and try to show you the execution. But this is the design. From the design point of view, this is the enhancement design, and this is the rule-based workflow design which you need to maintain for parallel processing. And this is the process. So with having said that, so what was the target for us? Basically, we were planning to talk about parallel processing, mass change, and DIF, and case studies. Case study is not possible today. So in next class, basically we will talk about the case study and the value mapping, key mapping, and the various questions from regarding the project point of view, regarding some basic understanding. So those are all questions I will talk about. And what are those mails has been sent? Before that, I will just look into those mails and I will prepare those answers, whatever the questions has been given. Okay. Any question? Okay. So the next class will be, one second, let me check. So the next class will be on Friday morning 7:30 a.m. IST. Okay. So next class will be Friday 7:30 a.m. IST. Fine. And the relative document I'm going to send right away after this class. Thanks.